Hi guys, Debbie Lively here again with or from livelyview.com. You guys, thanks so much for coming back to watch another one of my videos. We're going to talk about some serious things today. I guess I kind of always talk about something serious, but you know, I have a question or something a question I want to pose, something I want you guys to think about. You know, have you ever had somebody do something very negative or very bad to you or very spiteful to you and you didn't know why, right? But there's something in you that feels like, well, if I just knew why, if I just knew why they were doing what they were doing or why this particular person did what they did to me, it would almost make it bearable. Like I can deal with, you know, what it is they did if I just knew the reasons why, right? There are a lot of people, a lot of African Americans and Black people, people of color who are dealing with white supremacy, and they just don't know why. They just don't know why. You know, they want to know, why are we hated so much, right? And I am going to address that and explain to you why I think it is. All right, so stay with me and let's discuss, okay? Thanks. Okay, you guys, thanks for coming back. Well, you know, before I start all of my talks, I usually like to invite the ancestors in. And I actually want to find a way to like light us, you know, when I do my talks, kind of start lighting a candle because that's one of the things that I do. But I want to just take a second to invite the ancestors into the room, okay? Okay, all right. So what we're going to talk about today is, the title of this talk is, They Don't Hate You, They Fear You. And we're specifically talking about a collective of white people. And I'm not talking, I want to preface this by saying I'm not talking about all white people. I know all white people aren't racist or don't discriminate against white people, against Black people. But for those who do, that's the group that I'm addressing, right? So, you know, I was recently talking to a spiritual advisor, right, of mine. And one of the things that he told me is that it's kind of time for me to speak, to kind of say some things. But when I initially started this channel, my initial direction for this channel was really just to talk about my journey to Africa as it relates to Black people. And I wanted to really be able to explain to other African Americans about my journey for those who might be interested. But then all of these things start happening and the world exploded and all of these, you know, protests and all the very things that we see happening in the streets. So my channel has kind of changed in direction a little bit, and I'm really being prompted to speak from my ancestors to say some things that I really had not intended to say. So what I was saying was that I'm about to say some things that I really did not intend to say when I initially started this channel, but I've been directed to do so, so that's what I'm going to do. So about a week or two ago, I saw this FedEx driver, and you guys may have seen the video. It was posted on Facebook, right? It was a young Black man who actually reminded me a lot of like some of my nephews, right? And he was just crying profusely. You know, he was delivering some packages, and a white person in a car came alongside of him, called him the N-word and spat on him, right? And he was just outdone that they did that to him. And he was just crying profusely. You guys, I'm actually going to try to find a picture and put it up here so you may see it here of him. But anyway, it just reminded me so much, like I said, of family members of mine. And what he said was, why do they hate us so much, right? Why do they hate us so much? And I just really wanted to address that, and that's what I'm going to talk about here. Why do they hate us so much? And as you can see in the title, it's not that. My true belief in what I've studied and what I've learned is that white people don't necessarily hate Black people, but there are a collective of white people that are afraid of Black people, and that's what I'm going to discuss, why they're afraid. Okay. So, yeah, so that's what I'm going to discuss, why they're afraid. So there are a couple of things, And there's primarily two points. And I'm going to be referencing Frances Cress Welsing's book called The ISIS Papers. She was a psychologist, and she devoted a significant part of her work and her studies to understanding white supremacy, right? And this book, if you don't have this book, if you haven't heard of it, please, it's really dense, but it's got some really, really good information. She just really unpacks white supremacy. And I highly, highly advise, if you want to know deeper truths about what's happening with Black people or to Black people as it relates to white supremacy, she tackles it and she deals with it head on. So the two main points that I'm going to discuss that she mentions here is why white people, a collective of white people, have this vendetta against Black people. And her two main points is that it gets down to genetic material, right? It gets down to what makes us this color and what makes them the color that they are. And she talks about the recessive gene, that the white gene is recessive, meaning that when a white person or a Black person get together, procreate, the baby that they produce is going to be a Black child. It's going to be a Black child. So whenever you put white together and Black together, white people and Black together, you're going to produce a Black child, right? So if that happens enough, what happens to the population? The population is all Black. And that is one of the major fears of a collective of white people, that their numbers will become smaller and lesser, and the world will be populated by Black and brown people. And they know that they possess the possessive or the recessive gene. So you guys get that. White people possess a recessive gene. When they procreate with Black people, they produce a Black child, right? So think about that. And there's a group of white people, collective white people, and that's what I'm going to refer to them as, who understand that they have this recessive gene, because this melanin is strong. The very thing that we have that people make fun of, that they use to discriminate against in terms of our skin color, because we can't get away from our skin color. This is what makes us strong, because this is dominant. The melanated skin, the melanated person, it has a dominant gene. Okay, so remember that. There's a collective group of white people who know that they have the recessive gene, and that they're concerned that they could lose numbers, right? Okay, so the second point that she refers to feeds into that, because they have a recessive gene, that they are terrified of white annihilation. And these are the words that she used. These aren't my words. These are the terms that she used. White annihilation, right? Because if we look at the world, and here's the thing, white people have done an incredible job in making it seem like it's like billions of white people in the world, but it's not. There aren't a billion white people in the world. Well, there are a lot of white people, but there's more people of color, brown, Black, and yellow people than there are white people. But if we look, particularly here in America, if we look at our television, we think, oh man, white people are everywhere. It's so many more of them than it is of us. But if you look globally, that's not the case, right? That's not the case. So the 2 points that they're mostly concerned with is they know that they have the recessive gene, and 2, they're concerned with white annihilation. That one day that they will not exist, that the world will be populated by Black and brown and yellow people, right? And that's the direction we're going in, right? I won't get too off track, but those are 2 of her main points. And that is at the heart of it, you guys. You have to understand that that's the heart of it, that recessive gene, and that they're scared of being annihilated. Okay, so let's just keep moving. So if you think about that, if you compare Black and white people together, or a Black man and a white man together, right? No, I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to explain it a different way. The opposite of white is Black, right? So people wonder, like, why out of all of the people on the planet, why are Black people hated so much? Why not the Chinese? Why not the Mexicans? Why not the Indians? Because we are a direct opposite of white people, right? So we have the strongest genes, that black melanated gene that has the greatest propensity or the greatest opportunity to do away with the white gene. We're direct opposite, right? We're direct opposite. So the biggest fear is that of the black man or the black seed. And we're gonna get real here because she actually uses a lot of diagrams. I'm getting ahead of myself, but she talks about, that direct opposite. But I'm gonna read a quote from her book, right? I'm gonna read a quote from her book, 178. Okay. So on page 178 of the book, it says, "The white collective looks upon the black male specifically as the possessor of genitals most capable of causing white genetic annihilation." So that's why the black man is just hunted in the way that he is, because he has the strongest propensity to annihilate the white gene, right? Think about historically, you guys, when we used to have, it's hard to say when we used to because we're having lynchings now, but when lynchings, with Ida B. Wells was documenting lynchings, and that's what she did, what was happening was just always, there was just this obsession with black genitalia, right? They were just obsessed with the black penis. And this is why, because they were afraid of it and its capabilities and what's possible for the black seed, right? There's always been a deception with the black man's penis in this country, right? And not just in this country, in the West, but that's what it's about, right? Because they know there's a collective, and I will always say that there is a collective who understand the strength of the black seed and what it's capable of doing, which is annihilating them. That's what this is all about. So when I go back and I say, it's not that they hate you, it's that they fear you. They don't hate black people, they fear black people, right? There are some people who understand this, who understand exactly what I'm talking about, but there are also a lot of people who are just operating on a subconscious level and are hating black people for this very reason, but they don't even understand. They've been taught by their grandparents and their great-grandparents, because this has been happening for a long time, right? So we have some white people who are operating subconsciously, and then we have a collective of white people who are operating consciously, who know exactly what it is that they're doing. But it gets down to that black seed. And please know that it's not that they hate you, they fear you. And we have to put that in perspective, right? We have to really understand. So when we're out, and I'm getting ahead of myself because I want to talk about some other things, but I want you guys to understand it's that recessive gene and that they fear annihilation. So what we're dealing with out in the streets in terms of, and just systemic racism, it comes down to fear. It's about fear. It's not hate. It looks like hate, but underneath it is fear, right? Okay. So in her book, and I'm going to put a diagram up too. So hopefully when I'm pointing here, the diagram will be here. I'm still working on my, my editing skills. But what she goes through, Dr. Francis, what she goes through in this book, she says, if you want to understand the dominant culture's behavior, because they're not going to tell you, they're not going to say, I'm afraid of you. They're not going to say that, but they're going to act, and they're going to have symbols. So she does this whole thing in here on symbolism, and like what that means. And if you really want to understand what white people think, you look at the symbols in their culture, right? And we see what's happening, like with all these statues being being pulled down, and why there's a certain group of people who are just really opposed to statues being pulled down, because, there is symbolism. It represents something. It represents their willingness or their desire to hold on to power and control, right? That's why these statues are here, and why so many people are resistant to it, because they're like, okay, I got to feel strong, so I have to have these statues, in my environment to remind me of when, America was great. Right? When we own slaves, when we own black people, right? So symbolism is very, very important. But what she talks about here, she talks about the symbolism of the black penis, and how if we look at that, if we look at the structure of the black penis, and we look at the symbolism of it and how it shows up in our culture. And I'm going to try really hard to put a picture up here for you guys to see. But if you look at the not black penis. So if you look at the penis of a male penis, it looks like a gun. Because what is the equalizer for white people? And I always tell people, if you put a white man and a black man, same height, same size, same weight, you put them, you make them fight face to face, there's a good chance that the black man is going to win 9 times out of 10. It's just going to happen because his physique is just the way that the divine has structured him. He just has that kind of mass to his body, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. You put a black man against a white man, you can just see the mass, right? When I say the mass, I mean the muscle, right? So if you put them together, the black man is just going to beat the white man down every time because that's just the way the divine has structured him, right? But listen to this. If you put them together, you put them and make them fight, he's going to fight. The black man is probably going to win 9 times out of 10. But what has become the equalizer for the white man is the gun. It's the gun, right? He holds his gun and he knows that he can maintain control. That's why when you see our police officers, they look like they're in war, right? These are just regular police officers, patrolling our streets. They have the helmets, they have protective gear. It's like they're in war because that is how they are consciously and subconsciously approaching and thinking about their psychology about the black man. They feel like they're going into war because they feel like they may be annihilated. Guys, hear what I'm saying here, because I know it sounds so, out there, but it's the truth. And what Francis talks about, you have to look at the symbolism. Look how they show up, right? Look how our police officers show up because they feel like they're fighting a war. They do. Okay. So anyway, back to what I was saying. So the penis looks like the gun. If you think about a gun and you turn it upside down, that's what it looks like. Think about bombs. They look like guns. They look like the penis, right? So you can see the psychology behind this, behind white thinking, particularly white male thinking. They're so afraid of that black penis. And it shows up in their symbolism. And they're so afraid of it, they've created a gun that looks like it. Hear what I'm saying? And I know that sounds like, and I'm not joking. This is not, I know it sounds probably crazy, but this is the real deal, you guys. Look at the symbolism, right? Look at the symbolism of the gun and the penis. They look alike. They look alike, right? Because there's this whole conscious and subconscious thinking for a white collective about that black penis. This is what it's all about, you guys. It's not about hate. It's about fear and what can happen. White people are afraid, a collective of white people are afraid of being annihilated. And the biggest opponent or the biggest proponent of that is the black seed. Okay? So think about that. I know this is deep, you guys, and I truly did not want to talk about this, but the divine is just like, okay, Debbie, you're up. You got to talk about this. You got to let people like the FedEx guy who was crying and was saying, why do they hate us so much? You got to let people know what the real deal is. And the real deal is fear and not hate, right? Fear and not hate. But it's happening anyway. It's happening anyway, okay? So I wanted to, I had a quote that I wanted to use. Oh, here it is. I'm going to end by saying this quote, and it's from The Art of War. It says, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the results of 100 battles. Okay, I'm gonna say that again. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the results of 100 battles. What I see happening in the street is, one, we don't know our enemy. We don't know our enemy. And I just gave you guys some knowledge about our enemy and what their thinking really is. But in light of that, we also need to know ourselves. We need to know about this melanin and what it's all about. We need to know how strong it is. The very thing that they have used to weaponize us, which is our skin, is the very thing that makes us strong. So, I was thinking about this the other day and I heard in my mind, black the berry, the sweeter the juice. We've heard of that, right? But the people, us dark people, we got strong melanin. And with this melanin comes DNA coding, and I won't get into that, but it comes knowledge. So we can tap into knowledge from my ancestors. You guys hear me talk about the ancestors. That's what this is all about. in that DNA, in our melanin. We can tap into our ancestors and get knowledge and information from them. Because a lot of what I'm sharing with you guys, this didn't just come to me. This didn't just, I didn't just make this up. This is not my knowledge. This is knowledge from the ancestors. This is information that I've been giving, right? So we got to understand, in this battle that we're going through, it is a battle. It's about knowing our enemy and knowing what his fears are. And please know that they're fears. And then why they're so afraid. Why they're so afraid. Think about that. Why do they keep coming at Black people if we're just as dumb and uneducated and unaware as they say that we are, right? Because it's something to us, and it's this. So please know that, all right? So I'm going on. This is much longer than I expected, but I get excited talking about these sorts of things. You guys, please like, share, and comment, and please share this video with other people of color, particularly Black men, so that they know, who they are, and Black women, so that we know who we are, right? It's all about this melanin, you guys. It's all about the melanin. So thank you once again for coming back. I will keep talking about these kinds of issues as the ancestors direct me to. And please like, share, and comment, and subscribe. Please subscribe to my channel because I'm trying to grow it. And I'm going to be talking about, I want to say what I'm going to be talking about, but I'm learning that I got to talk about what the ancestors say talk about. So, but I'm assuming it will be along these same lines. So thank you guys, and I will talk to you real soon. And I like to end my talks by saying Ashe, which means let everything that I've said be so. Okay, thanks. Debbie Lively here. Bye.